Okay, in our last video here for Photoshop B, I want to show you how to put a selection that you've made into a completely separate graphic. So there's a few things we need to do first to get this set up. So let's do File New right now, and we're just going to make a small document. Let's do 5 inches by 5 inches at 300 ppi. If you want to, you can change the title. I'll just call it selections or something like that. That's up to you. And then click OK. And you'll see that we have our blank canvas here that we are going to start working with. And so the next thing we need to do is find an image that we would want to select and put on our new graphic. So what we want to do here is open a new Google tab, and then I'm just going to actually I'm going to Google Fargo South. And then search images and see if I can find a paw, which I did. Fantastic. So I'm going to click on the paw, and I'm going to say save image as. Just got to think a little bit here. Lots of thinking. Just being extra slow today. The one thing I want to point out, remember, about finding images online is it may or may not be a file type that works. So a PNG file should be fine. So I'm just going to call this broom paw. And I like to save them on my desktop because I find them to be easiest to find. If you want to save them in your shared folder, you can certainly do that too. That's completely up to you. And once it opens, a PNG is actually going to open in Photoshop for me. Remember, if it's a JPEG, it'll open in the Windows Photo Viewer, and then you just have to right-click and say Open With, and then choose Photoshop. But mine will open automatically. So this is actually the first time that we have had two separate tabs open at the same time. So you'll notice that you have your document where we will eventually put our selection in, and then we have this document that we want to make a selection from. So however you want to choose to select your image is up to you. Remember, you've got the rectangle marquee, you've got the elliptical marquee, you have a lasso, you have the polygonal. You could attempt to do the magic wand. The one I haven't showed you yet is the quick selection tool. If you want to play around with that, that one works very well too. I'll just show you how that goes. What the quick selection tool does is it allows you to click and drag, and it will select pixels kind of like the magic wand tool does that are similar to each other. Now, this is going to be tricky for me with this particular graphic. You can see on my screen that it's kind of jumping all over. It might not be the best tool to use for this, simply because of the fact that there are technically only two color pixels in this image. I have the gold and I have the brown. So it's not really the best one for me to use, so I'm actually going to get rid of that. And I think for my purposes, I'm going to use the elliptical marquee, and I'm going to put a little bit of a feather on this one, like 10 pixels. And I'm going to start from the center, so I'm going to hold my Alt key down, and I'm just going to pull out and select this. I make a circle. Now, it's not going to grab everything, and I'm okay with that. I just want to show you how you can go about doing this. So there's multiple ways that you can move a selection from one graphic to another. One way is to simply take your Move tool and click over your selection and drag it up and hold it over the File tab of the document you want to put in. And then you just bring it back down. You'll see you get a little plus sign on where your mouse pointer is, and then you drop it. And it'll automatically make a new layer for you. And then this will allow us to kind of, you have to have your move tool still, but it allows you to move your graphic around and place it wherever that you would like. So that is one way that you can do that. I'm going to delete that and go back over to my selection. It's still there. Another way that you can do this is to go Edit, Copy, and then you go back to your selections and you say Edit and Paste. And so that's another way that you can add a selection to your graphic. I'm going to leave this one here for now so that we can do this. I'm going to add one more layer so I can just show you a couple quick things in regards to working with layers. So since I have my broom pot and I don't need it anymore, I'm just going to close out of this and go back to Google and see if I can't find another image. Let's do the front of Fargo South. So I'm just going to say save as. Wait for it to download here. Should take just a second. There we go. So notice that it is a JPEG image. That's good for us. So I'm just going to type FSH and click save. So this is a JPEG file, which means when I click on it, it opens in that Windows photo viewer. And then I just need to right click and say open with Photoshop file. Now before I even get it in there, I can tell that it's a really low quality image simply from the fact of how small it is. And also if I went to image size, it's definitely going to be at that 72. Oh, it's at 96, but still that's really low for print quality. Remember, our print quality is what? Hopefully someone said 300 ppi. Okay, so even though it's a little small, that's okay. I am actually going to use my polygonal lasso tool. I'm going to make sure my feather is at 0 because I want this to be a real sharp edge. And I'm just going to click along here and select the front. Now, for the sake of time, I'm not going to do a super clean job here. I'm just going to kind of get it done. And then close it off. So once again, you can choose how you want to do this. If you want to just grab it and move it up and then drop it in, you can do that. Or if you wanted to, you could do that edit copy. So I just want to show you comparison wise. This is that at 96 resolution, so you can see how tiny it is. Also, if you remember, the size of that original one is only, about a little over 3.5 inches by about 2.5 inches. So it's a very small document already. And remember, ours is set at 5 inches by 5 inches. So it's tiny. This, I didn't look at the dimensions, but clearly it was bigger. And I'll teach you how to change the size of things in the next lesson in Unit C. So don't worry if they're different sizes right now. I'm okay with that. But I do just want to show you a couple of things real quickly about our layers because we talk all about layers in our next section, but just some basics for you. You do have to be clicked on whatever layer you want to move. So if I'm trying to move my broom paw, I need to be clicked on my broom paw layer. So once I'm clicked on it and I have my move tool selected, then I'm moving my broom paw. If I'm trying to move my front of Fargo South right now, I'm clicking on it and it's not moving because I'm selected on my broom paw layer. So you need to be clicked on the front of Fargo South, oops, in order to edit that layer. If you wanted to edit your background, you need to be clicked on your background. And remember, that's where you could change the color here, whatever you wanted it to be. I don't know what color you would want, but once you have it selected, you could use your paint bucket tool and then dump in the background. Okay. So those are just a few little tidbits on how to, oh my goodness, taskbar popping out. Just a few little tips on how to work a little bit with your graphic, because you are going to make a graphic from scratch in this assignment. Also, another thing that's really, really helpful, especially when we get to have lots of layers, is for us to name our layers. So you can see right now it's called layer 1, layer 2. If you want, and I shouldn't say if you want because I do require it, to name your layers, you just double click on that text. And here you could name it, like Bruin Paw, FSH Front, and then you just hit your enter key and it renames the layers. And that's really helpful, just so you know what is on each layer, because as you can see, it gets kind of hard to see what's on each layer, and then you're like, I'm not really sure. And all they say is layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, layer 5. That's not really helpful. So that is how you bring a selection onto your graphic. So good luck on your couple of assignments.